Hello everyone, my name's Dr. Paul Rose and this presentation provides you with some hints and tips on how to write your very first piece of university coursework. I'm going to go over some of the basic key things to do when you're presented with that first assignment brief so you can complete it successfully. Getting your first university essay brief can be quite a daunting experience and something that you might feel unprepared for. So these are my top 6 key pointers for success. I'm going to go through why you should start early, why you should check your understanding, why you need to plan what you're going to write, why you should do background reading, why you should check all of the terminology, the big words that you will use in your assignment, and why you should spend some time on reading and reviewing the work you have produced. If you do each of these things in turn, you will hopefully succeed in creating an essay or a piece of coursework that answers the question that you have been set in a successful, succinct, and evaluative manner. So pointer number 1, start your work early. I know it's easier said than done, but if you can get into a good habit of looking at an assignment brief and reviewing it when it's set and working out how much time you have to spend on it, your life will be easier and there'll be less rushing and panicking when you come to the submission date. Remember, things like IT failures don't count as extenuating circumstances for coursework extensions. Nobody says to you that you have to start your essay right at the end of the period of time that you have for it. And nobody says to you that you have to submit it right at the deadline. Planning ahead always gives you plenty of time to cope with unforeseen events. So make sure you give yourself time to think about what your assessment means. Read over the brief and get in touch with your lecturers to ask any questions. It's always better to speak to the teaching staff in person. Drafting emails could just add more panic or stress to how you engage with your lecturers and how you engage with the assignment brief. So attend all of the lectures that are associated with the brief and speak to your lecturers in the breaks in the lecture or at the beginning or at the end of the lecture if you have questions. And then you can book in and ask for time, if needed, to go over any questions that you might have. Time spent planning and in preparation will always amount to a good execution of a finished essay. So pointer number 2, check that you understand the brief. Read over all sections of the assignment brief before you actually start writing. Do you know what the instructions mean? Do you have to go and look up big words or phrases that are linked to the particular question? Make notes on what the brief is asking, highlight key phrases, make sure you've looked over any marking guidelines that are associated with it. And remember, check that you are answering the question that's being set rather than the one that you want to answer. If you understand the question in advance and you can structure your answer around it, the chances are you will answer it successfully. By all means, look at previous examples of other people's essays that might be available to you. But I have always found that they're of little overall help. It's better to do your own reading and check that you are using examples from the literature that support the question being asked, rather than trying to work out what other people have done. Don't compare your work to others. Answer the question in your own style using key pieces of information that you have read. That will make you more successful in the long run. Okay, so now that you've looked over the brief and you've understood it, and you've spoken to your lecturers if you've got any questions on what the brief is about, now it's time to plan what you want to write. So point number 3, think about how you will answer the question and what you will actually write about. If your assignment brief comes with key examples from the literature, read them, because they have been provided as a framework for you to construct your ideas around. These references in the assignment brief give your essay support because they're pointing you in the right direction of the literature or the examples to focus on. So check that you understand the different sections of the essay, because you will write differently for each of these sections. All essays have an introduction, which is where you describe key terminology, big words and phrases to the reader. Then you have the main body of the essay, which is where you evaluate, critique and discuss your examples and the papers that you have read. And the final section of the essay is the conclusion, which brings everything together. So I recommend having an introduction, a main body and a conclusion as different sections in your notes, and then making a bulleted list or pointers on what you will include in each. And then you can expand on these bullet points into your actual paragraphs. You could also produce a spider diagram or similar flowchart that links all of your sections together. And this might help you visualize what your finished piece of writing will look like. Next up, point 4, most importantly, do your reading. This is what you are being tested on. Your comprehension of the topic, the examples you have selected, and how you build your arguments around them. So read widely around your topic. Get yourself familiar with the university library and get yourself familiar with the online databases that you have access to. Science Direct, for example, Web of Science, Ingenta, all of these big databases that provide a repository for journals. Google Scholar is not the only thing that you can go to. The best way for you to develop your academic writing is to expose yourself to as many papers as possible, because the more you read, the more you will see how people write in an academic manner, and therefore you can then mirror this writing style and develop how you yourself write as an academic. Check your access to scientific databases, make sure you know how to access them, and ask perhaps your personal tutor or any of the teaching staff that you are exposed to if you are struggling with how to access the big databases that your university subscribes to. Use your essay's title to guide you in how you search for information. Put the title's keywords into a scientific database and use them to search for key pieces of literature. And the more reading you do of papers on your topic, the more you will develop your academic skills. And this wider reading will, in the long run, be more beneficial to you than reading, for example, past papers on the same topic. Remember, you're looking at currency and contemporary issues, what's currently being published. That won't be available in past assignments. So read the brief, look at the literature now, and see how the literature available to you can be developed and synthesized to answer the question that you've been set. Point 5, check your key terminology. These are keywords and phrases or technical terms that you might have to explain and describe to the reader. That's generally what your introduction is for, the outlining of big words in your essay. Get yourself a good academic dictionary. For example, if you're an animal behaviour student, the Oxford Dictionary of Animal Behaviour is an excellent glossary of terms which you can look up and find what keywords mean. Doing this searching and getting these definitions yourself also makes you understand the topic better. You could also use the define function in Google, and I've posted an example of this here using the word anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism means giving human-like characteristics to non-human animals. But if that word appears in an assignment and you don't know what it means, simply put the word define, then a colon, then a space, and then the word itself into Google, and you will find dictionary definitions and a glossary of terms. Review your own comprehension of scientific terminology. Make sure you know what it means so that you then understand the brief. And make sure you're using the correct terms and phrases in your writing as you go and develop and write your essay. Remember, define the key terms in your introduction because that sets the scene for the main body of work that you will then provide with all of your arguments in it. And here's the last of my 6 points. Read, review, and read again. That means read each section of your essay in turn once you've written it. Do each section flow together and give a narrative, a story that leads the reader through your writing, which ultimately answers the question. Review the examples you have used. Have you evaluated them? That means, have you given them meaning in the text? You haven't just described an example or a paper, you've explained to the reader why it's important. Have you linked different examples together to give more flow to your work? So review the examples and review your narrative. Most importantly about reading and reviewing and reading again is to give yourself time to do it. This is why it's important to plan your essay and to not rush it. So give yourself time between when you want to finish and when you need to submit so that you can go away, give yourself 24, 48 hours and come back and review that essay with fresh eyes. If you finish your essay and then read it immediately afterwards, you will read what you think is there rather than what's actually written. These fresh eyes are essential for the reviewing process to be helpful to you. And finally, check you have followed all of the instructions that you have been given. For example, is your essay the correct word limit? Have you used the correct number of references? If your essay says you must use a minimum of 10 good quality sources, have you actually used 10 good quality sources? And if the essay says you must use 3 different species examples, have you actually used at least 3 different species examples? Remember, your assignment brief is a set of instructions which are there to help you do well. The assignment brief is not there to trip you up. It's not there to test what you don't know. It's there for the ladder to climb for you to eventually be successful. So climb that ladder in stages, follow all of the instructions, and you will reach the best possible marks because you have followed those instructions. That's the whole point of an assignment brief for this type of assessment. Some final thoughts for you. Remember to come and ask for help. Attend the lectures that link to the assignment and speak to the teaching staff that are there, before, during the break or after. They will make time for you and give you advice if you ask sensible questions that showed you've actually read the brief and you have questions on particular sections. It's always better to go away and try to work things out yourself first before you ask for help, because it shows to your teaching staff that you try to be independent. And a university education is all about making you independent in your thoughts, arguments and ideas. Make sure you've followed all instructions and build yourself a support network so as you progress through your degree, you have friends and peers that you can work with. This essay will be the first of many that you have to write, and essays will become reports, presentations, posters and maybe a dissertation. So building your support network at the start will help you on each of the year of your degree. Don't panic. I know this might sound daunting and I know it might be new and unfamiliar to you. you might feel that there's less help in this assignment brief than what you've been used to at school. But there's a reason for that, and that reason is what we are looking for, what all of your teaching staff are looking for, are your independent ideas and your independence as an academic. We want you to go away and find the answer. We don't want to give you the answer to the assessment, because that won't help you become a valid, objective and unbiased scientist. So it's not that we're being cruel, and it's not that we're nasty people. We give you the outline, but you have to join up the dots. Because only by joining up the dots independently will you develop all of these important skills that makes you successful in science in the future. So good luck, don't be daunted, and start early, because starting early is the best way to success. Thank you very much.